Did the White House really step in for Andrew Tate? The shocking investigation twist. What happens when a top-level government office potentially intervenes in a criminal probe, not for justice, but to help a controversial influencer under investigation? The latest reporting claims the White House did exactly that for Andrew Tate. In this video, we're peeling back the layers of the scandal. You won't believe what emerges. Background: who is Andrew Tate, and why this probe matters? For those unaware, Andrew Tate is a polarizing internet personality and influencer, notorious for extreme views, but also accused of serious crimes: sex trafficking, exploitation, and abuse. Recently, he and his brother have been the subject of criminal and civil allegations across several countries, charges that have drawn wide public attention and condemnation. In early 2025, the Tate brothers traveled to the United States. At the border in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when they arrived by private plane, officers from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, seized their electronic devices, phones, laptops, and other media as part of standard border and security procedures. Given their international accusations and high-profile status, this move seemed routine and within protocol. But what followed was anything but ordinary. The twist: alleged White House intervention. Just days after the devices were confiscated, a person with a remarkable and troubling stepped in. Paul Ingrassia. Ingrassia isn't just any lawyer. He previously represented the Tate brothers. Later, he became the official liaison between the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. According to an investigative report by ProPublica, based on internal records and interviews, Ingrassia sent a written request to senior DHS officials demanding the devices be returned. The letter reportedly criticized the seizure as a waste of time and resources, and explicitly stated the request came from the White House. Such an instruction from the White House to override a border seizure is unprecedented. For many agents and officials within DHS, this rocked the foundations of expected law enforcement independence. A retired senior official said, "I've never heard of anything like that in my 30 years. The word was that the move felt like an intimidation tactic. Reactions inside and outside. Alarm, outrage, and political fallout. Unsurprisingly, the intervention triggered serious alarm. Experts, former prosecutors, and civil rights advocates rushed to call out what they see as a dangerous precedent: political influence corrupting criminal investigations. A legal scholar described the pressure as another data point in the White House politicizing law enforcement. Moreover, in response to the reporting, 2 U.S. senators, Richard Blumenthal and Gary Peters, publicly demanded full transparency. All communications, records, and clarifications about whether the move was formally authorized by the White House's top leadership. They also asked the DHS Inspector General to launch an official investigation into possible ethics violations and abuse of power. The senator's letter did not mince words, warning that if the allegations are true, if a self-professed extremist and former lawyer intervened for individuals accused of heinous crimes, it would be a dangerous undermining of the independence, legitimacy, and effectiveness of DHS law enforcement operations. Inside DHS, many reportedly felt pressure. One whistleblower told media the request was brazen and carried a high-handed expectation of complicity. The concern, even if officials refused, knowing they were being watched by the White House, might influence how aggressively they pursued investigations in the future. What's known versus what's unknown. As of now, the seizure of devices by CBP was real and documented. The request to return the devices came from Paul Ingrassia, the DHS liaison, claiming to act for the White House. Law enforcement and ethics experts consider such an intervention extremely unusual and possibly a violation of norms meant to shield criminal investigations from political interference. Senators have called for an official inquiry into whether this intervention broke ethics or legal standards. But there are key uncertainties. It's not clear, publicly, whether the devices were actually returned to Tate on his brother. Their lawyer says he doesn't know. It's also unclear what data, if any, was on the devices, whether forensics had begun, or whether any useful evidence was lost or withheld. No criminal charges have been filed against the Tates in the U.S. related to this incident. though there are reports some investigations may be ongoing in other jurisdictions. That lack of clarity makes the incident even more controversial. The public doesn't know if justice was obstructed or if the intervention was successfully carried out. The bigger picture. Why this case resonates. This isn't just about one influencer or one investigation. If proven true, this incident threatens to erode trust in the principle that law enforcement should operate independently of political influence. Critics argue this could set a dangerous precedent. Powerful or well-connected individuals might receive protection, not based on evidence or justice, but simply because of who they know or the political support they offer. Given the gravity of the crimes alleged against Tate, sex trafficking, exploitation, the potential consequences of such interference are especially disturbing. Moreover, many see this as part of a broader trend. According to the originally cited reports, this is not the first time the White House has inserted itself into law enforcement matters involving controversial or politically connected individuals. For victims and survivors of abuse and trafficking, the very idea that a senior official could shield suspects undermines faith in justice and sends a dark signal about who gets protected. What happens next? The stakes ahead. Several scenarios may unfold. The inquiry by Senate offices and oversight bodies may lead to formal hearings, release of communications, and possibly sanctions if wrongdoing or unethical conduct is confirmed. If the devices were returned and evidence lost, that could impact any future prosecutions or civil suits tied to the Tates, both in the U.S. and abroad. The controversy could trigger broader calls for reform, clearer boundaries between political offices and criminal investigations, stronger safeguards against interference, and more transparency. Media and public pressure could force additional disclosure, possibly helping victims and independent investigators access withheld evidence. Regardless, this case may become a watershed moment, either a restoration of trust through accountability or a deepening of skepticism toward whether justice can remain impartial under political pressure. Conclusion. At its core, this scandal forces an essential question. Does the law apply equally to everyone, or only to those without connections? When a government institution steps in to influence a criminal investigation, it doesn't just affect one case. It challenges the ideal of fairness and justice that underpins society. Whether you support or oppose Andrew Tate, the issue isn't just about him. It's about whether political power can override legal accountability. The alleged intervention by the White House raises serious alarms not only about one man's fate, but about the integrity of institutions meant to protect the vulnerable and uphold justice. As this story develops, with potential investigations, disclosures, and public scrutiny, it may define whether the United States can preserve the line between power and justice, or whether that line becomes increasingly blurred. If you found this twist shocking, stay tuned, because how this plays out could reshape trust in power, law, and accountability. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe for more.